they're really beautiful inside. It's a glamping tent, so it's not like people think tent and they're thinking like it's fairly rustic. These are really pretty inside. They're very homey. Women love them.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
All right. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Gentle Art of Crushing It show. And I'm your host, Marta, and I have a lovely guest today, Karen Chenaille. Did I say that right, Karen?
You can say it Chenaille or Chenaille.
Chenaille. And I am very excited to chat with Karen today and get to know her and her journey. Karen is a real estate agent and an investor, and she invests in the Smoky Mountains. And we are going to dive into her journey today and get to know Karen a little bit. So Karen, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about where you've been, where you are now, and we can do a little bit of a deep dive into one of your projects later on.
Oh, I would love that. I'm super excited. If I think you're going to ask me about the project that I'm hoping you're going to ask me about. So first of all, thanks for having me. Super excited to be doing this with you today. Where did I start? Well, I started at a W-2 job back in, I want to say, I think it was 2014. We bought a convenience store while I had the W-2 job, and that was my first foray into real estate. I used a loan out of my 401k as a down payment to get it. And I can remember at the time, I think, so I was, at that point in time, I was a program manager working for General Dynamics on some Navy government programs. Mostly surface ships, for those of you that are in the audience and in the military. We did a lot of surface ship work on a program called LCS, which was called the Littoral Combat Ship. So I had a pretty long commute, and every day I was driving by, I saw this little convenience store, and it closed. And the reason why I'm making such a big deal about this is because it's kind of exemplifies the fact that, like, there's a lot of people I know out there trying to get out of their W-2s. And I was just pretty determined, but I was able to buy the store. I took a loan out of my 401k. I didn't take that much out. I think it was only like $40,000, but I can remember like freaking out at the time because my mindset at the time was, oh my goodness, like, I'm touching my 401k. This is a horrible thing. You're never supposed to touch it. And that's kind of the culture that they ingrain in you, when you have a W-2 job and you're using those more traditional routes of savings to accumulate wealth. And so I took the loan. We used it to fix it up, basically. And then I just paid on the 401k loan over the next 4 or 5 years. We sold the store after about, I think we kept it 4 years. I just decided that being a convenience store operator really wasn't for me. And I didn't like it. And I was just sick of it, honestly. Like, I wanted out, and I wanted something more passive. So we sold it. We had quite a bit of money from the sale because we bought it so well. I think I paid $150,000 for a convenience store with 4 gas pumps on a very busy corner. Like, it was a steal. So I bought really well. We sold and wound up rolling that as a 1031 into some Airbnbs down on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. Simultaneously, we had managed to buy another Airbnb kind of close to our house. It was only like an hour away. And so that's sort of like all of this happened all at one time. I kind of got into the Airbnbs and sold the store and was using short-term rentals to accumulate wealth, which is what enabled me to leave my W-2 job. I officially left. It was a year last May that I had left.
Congrats.
And at the time I left, I had, thank you. I had 7 short-term rentals at the time that I quit my W-2. And then I transitioned into selling real estate full time. Started out selling real estate in the Smokeys back in January of 2021. I'm brokered by EXP, and so I joined a team on EXP and did a lot of volume. I sold 70 cabins in 1 year. A lot of that, and that was my first year out.
Wow.
A lot of that was just a factor of the market. So I left the team back in January of this year. I'm a solo agent now, much happier, really loving being a solo agent, having all the control and the autonomy that comes with that. And so, yeah, I sell real estate now full time. We moved here to the Smokeys back in December of 2020. And once we got here, like I said, I was selling the real estate. I still had my W-2 for a short period of time because we had a really nice house here we were trying to buy, and I wanted to make sure that we could qualify for the loan. But as soon as I got the loan, I quit my W-2, sold real estate full time. We bought a commercial cabin down here. So when I say commercial cabin, it's essentially a cabin that's used for commercial purposes, and we started a coffee shop there. It opened in Labor Day of 2021, so we've been open a little over a year right now, and that's doing really well. And then on the back side of the coffee shop, it had 1 acre of land that came with it, and I paid quite a lot for that building, probably a little too much in hindsight, but I knew the opportunity it presented because it's on the back entrance of a very busy corner, and it's the back entrance to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And so there was about 1 acre of land after, setting the coffee shop aside. So we bought a whole bunch of glamping tents. We bought 20 glamping tents. We were told by the person who sold them to us, hey, you should have no trouble getting these glamping tents on there. The county thought differently. So out of the 20 I bought, I was able to put 3 on there. So we have like 17 tents that we're looking for a home for, which is what my current project is. We're actually going to close on some privately financed land this Friday. Awesome. To put the rest of the glamping tents up. So
congratulations.
Yeah, so right now, present day, thank you, super excited. We got private financing at 6%. 6%.
Wow. That's wonderful these days.
It's insane. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, honestly, part of me, like the fear reaction in me, the economy is not great. Real estate sales are really slow right now. And I was like, gosh, like, I don't know if I want to do this right now. And then the guy came to me with a really amazing financing offer. And I'm like, like you have to, like, you can't, opportunity is in front of you. You have the tents. Stop being such a chicken and just do it. So
I love it. I love it.
We did it. We closed Friday, and we'll put the rest of the tents up.
Awesome. Well, I have
because honestly, like, I love the glamping. It's fun.
So we're going to dig into that. First, I want to back up a little bit to the beginning of your story. And so you were driving by this convenience store, and so not many people would get this idea of like, oh, maybe I should buy this. So do you have an entrepreneurial background or anyone in your family that were entrepreneurs? Like, how did you just kind of think to acquire a convenience store? Because that's pretty creative, innovative. So I just want to kind of understand, like, are you a risk taker?
Yeah. It's funny. I was working with my coach just the other day, and we had this conversation about, I'm very different from the rest of my family. I am a risk taker, 100%. Even if I'm scared of something, it's actually more of an indicator that I should probably be doing it because it's an indicator that you can grow. So yeah, I'm definitely a risk taker. I was real tired of working for a company. They treated me really well. Like, I had a great circle of friends. I had some amazing mentors at that company, but at the same time, it was still like working for someone else. I always thought I had some really great ideas, and because it's a company and they have shareholders, they tend to be fairly risk averse, in my opinion. And some of the things I want to do, they weren't crazy or anything. It's just that you had to go through like 50 layers of red tape before you could get anyone to approve you to do anything. So I was kind of tired of that. I was working a lot of long hours. So as a project manager, I focused mainly on business development. So I was like project manager over a lot of the proposals that we were trying to win. And it was a lot of long hours, a ton of traveling. Plus the commute, it was an hour and 10 minutes each way every day. And so there's a lot of like risk taking there, but more of it was like I really thought I had like the entrepreneurial bug in me, and I especially like after having looked at some minor success with Airbnbs and stuff, I was like, I really think I could make a go at this thing. So we bought it. We had a kind of an in. We knew the manager before it closed. She was a childhood friend of ours. And so we had kind of the down low on exactly why it closed and what was going on. So from like a financial standpoint, the person who went out of business because he got divorced and his wife came after him. So it was just a lot of opportunities. It was
Yeah.
essentially an off market. They tried to auction it and couldn't sell it. So it all just kind of worked out.
Yeah. Awesome. And give us a sense of the timeline. So from the moment that you decided that you wanted to get out of your W-2 to when you actually did, how many years was that?
Two and a half.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I
Amazing.
started working with a coach and I was older. So like when I say older, like I was in my 40s before, I was maybe 43, 44 when we got the store. I started working with a performance coach about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 years ago. And they just convinced me. They were like, the plan honestly was, I had like a 5 year plan or something in place when we started. And a lot of cool things kind of transpired and all came together. In addition to doing so well in the rental portfolio, my job was like, hey, don't come back. COVID's here. We don't ever want to see you in the office again. So I was like, okay. And my husband and I talked, and my husband's a little older than me. He was actually ready to retire at that point, and we were just like, let's go to Tennessee and sort of see how it goes. I said I didn't leave till last May. I could have actually financially could have left about 6 months prior to that. I just everything lined up, and I can't say that I just kind of had the intention of doing it. I didn't like wake up every day and like grind, 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 grind. I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. It was more just I set my intention and just always tried to take actions that were in alignment with that intention.
Awesome. That's amazing. Wow, 2 years. That's incredible. Well,
It
I
can be
want,
done.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, for sure. And so what type of mindset, you said get in alignment, but what else would you recommend to our listeners in terms of like getting over that fear, getting over that hump of doubt, I guess, in moving forward with something completely different?
I think in your mind, it's a fundamental change in how you view the world. If typically when you're living in a fear-based world, you're always worrying about like what could happen. You're always focused on kind of the negative effect, and you're in reaction. Um, my big shift that I had was I got into creation. So instead of thinking about all of the bad things that could possibly happen to me, I was thinking more about what is it that I want to create for myself. Like I would visualize myself and like 5 years down the road, like looking back at myself and like, okay, like what do I want to see? What's the story I want to be able to tell about what I did? So really, I just focus more on like what was the lifestyle I was trying to create. I wanted
Yeah.
to essentially I wanted more control over my time. I wanted to have more time with my husband and my kids. So it was again, I stayed away from fear because that's real easy. If I stayed in fear, I never would have done any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, if you think about it, all kinds of shit could have gone wrong, and it didn't. It actually went really well. So I really just try to stay in a place of creation.
Yeah. That's amazing. Awesome. Well, I want to dive into one of your projects, and we can do more. But I know you have a glamping resort in the Smokies, and I would love to dive into that and how that idea was born, and tell us a little bit about the vision there and what actually transpired.
Um, so I think I alluded to earlier, we bought the coffee shop. It wasn't a coffee shop when we bought it. It was just a commercial cabin. And my husband actually ran into this older gentleman, and he tried to sell us the darn thing like the first day we met him. And we were like, what the heck is this? Like, it just seemed pretty shady and kind of slimy, honestly. And we were kind of new in town still. We'd only been in town like, I don't know, maybe 2 months at that point. And but like I know a good opportunity when I see it, right? And then he was like, well, we'll offer you, private financing, and then the rate on that's only 5%. At the time it was a little more than I probably should have been paying on the rate too, but now it's a steal.
Steal. Yeah.
The only hitch was it's a 10-year note. Which is good and bad, right? Like, I've got a ton of equity in it after only a year and a half, but the payment on it is insane. So the payment on that property is $7,200 a month. And that's way out of line with like the type of business that I'm doing there. Like a $7,200 a month mortgage payment should be with a business that's got a lot more volume and all of that. So that was the first challenge we had to overcome. I was like, okay, like, how am I going to leverage this property to make money other ways? What other things about it can I do? So there was an apartment above the top of it that we renovated and rented out. So I have someone paying me $1,200 a month rent there, which helps the coffee shop. And then we still had all this land, and I was like, we got to figure out what we're going to do. And we saw it's a company that was selling glamping tents here in Sevierville. And so we stopped in and looked at them. And then I said, so how much is one of these things? At the time, they were $37,000 all in. And when I say all in, that's all your furnishings.
Oh, wow.
These things have full European spa baths. So it was everything in the bathroom, the shower, the toilet, the sink.
Wow.
In the kitchen, it was your full kitchen setup. You didn't get a refrigerator and a microwave. We had to buy those things. At the end of the day, like, when we set these up, essentially what we wound up buying was like refrigerators, microwaves. We paid to have electricity and plumbing put in them and water. So that was a cost. And then they're decorated really nice. So we bought a lot of, really nice light fixtures, and I bought a bunch of rugs, and they're really beautiful inside. It's a glamping tent. So it's not like people think tent and they're thinking like it's fairly rustic.
Yeah.
These are really pretty inside.
No, I was looking at your
They're
website.
very homey. Women love them.
Yeah. I was actually shocked at how much they actually are, almost like a little house, right? With everything inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had no idea.
And they're heated and cooled too.
What's that?
Which is another cool thing. They're heated and cooled too, so you can use them year round.
Wow. That's incredible what you can do with a tent.
Yeah. Well, then, and so from an economic standpoint, so these are considered 2-bedroom cabins, essentially. Typically, a 2-bedroom cabin here in the Smokies is going to run you anywhere from like 500. There's one listed right now. It's up over 800,000, which is way out of line from a price point. But so typically, the revenue off of a 2-bedroom cabin is going to be, like the higher end ones, you can clear just 100,000, just a little over 100,000 on them. On the high end, and on the low end, you'll do around 60 to 65,000 a year. So these things, so to get that revenue stream, you would have to spend, like I said, anywhere from like $500,000 all the way up to 800,000. These things are just 37,000 for the tent itself, and then the infrastructure and everything to decorate them is another 76 on top. So what are you looking at? Like maybe $110,000, $115,000 all in, and you've got access to the same revenue stream that you would get if you had actually built a 2-bedroom cabin. So
right.
It's like, from an economic standpoint, it's crazy. And
yeah, like a regular cabin to build,
and the paybacks,
like 3x that, right? At least.
Well, a regular cabin to buy, like a comparable head count capacity. I'm not talking square footage. I'm talking about, like, these can accommodate 5 guests. So you would normally need a 2-bedroom cabin to do that. A 2-bedroom cabin, the price range on those right now is around $500 all the way up. There's some listed for $800,000, which is that's way too expensive for that size. But I'm just giving an example. Yeah. These, you can buy them for $50,000 right now. They're about $50,000 off the shelf. You've got another $76,000 in infrastructure and decor and stuff. And these are all actuals. So after the project was done, I went and pulled all my numbers and tabulated all this. So this is all accurate and correct. So for like right now, if you're trying to do this, it's 50,000 plus another 76. What is that math? 7 and 5 is 12. So like 100, basically 130,000 out the door
Right,
to
right.
get one of these set up and have access to the same revenue stream you would get off of a cabin. And my belief is that because they're unique and different, I'll be able to actually get more than what you'd be able to get on a 2-bedroom cabin.
Yeah. And
Because
what's
if I
your,
look at comparables in the area, they're charging more.
yeah. What's your occupancy rate right now?
Um, we opened in Labor Day. So the first month it was fairly low. It was maybe like, I think I had 35% occupancy. October is one of the busiest months in the Smokeys for short-term rentals. And so I was sitting at about 78% in October. And then so far in November, right now, we've probably got about 68% booked, which is actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's
Because
amazing.
November, the front part tends to be slow and the back half tends to be busy because of Thanksgiving holiday and stuff like that. And December, right now, we're sitting at about 55% booked, which is pretty good considering it's a tent and people are a little bit unsure of how warm are they going to be and all that. So we have space heaters in them. We have a mini split in them that also produces heat. So they're not, it's not like sitting in front of a hot fireplace all day long. I think people, we usually tell them, you need to dress warmly, bring some warm clothing, but you're not freezing to death either.
Yeah, awesome. What's the competition around you like in terms of that type of resort, like glamping style resort?
There's two other places that have glamping tents that I know about. Um, One of them I'm not going to name it because I don't want to name out my competitors,
Yeah.
but one of them is a national chain. They've got these resorts sort of set up all over the United States. The other one is it's a smaller one. It's about maybe 25 minutes away from us, and so between those two, that's sort of what I use to figure out like what I should be charging and what I was going to be able to get, and those were the numbers I used to do all my financial models and stuff. So the payback on them is about 8 months,
Say that again?
which is pretty good. The payback period, in other words, to pay off the structure, is about 8 months.
Wow. That's a really good
Yep.
ROI there. Karen,
It's insane. Honestly, it's insane.
yeah. I do want to understand a little bit more about your the systems that you might have in place for the glamping resort. You know, what's your staffing look like? What things have you been able to automate versus retain as manual? Just kind of curious to see what the operation is like.
So the glamping tents are really just short-term rentals, and so they are an extension of my short-term rental business that I already had. I use all of the same systems. So for my PMS, I'm using OwnerRez, and so the tents are just each 3 more listings inside of OwnerRez. I use automated pricing. Um, Surprisingly, the automated pricing tool was remarkably accurate. When I started pricing them, I was like, there's no way it's going to be able to price a tent. It just isn't going to know what it is. But I'm starting to understand that the price you can get um, is, I mean, roughly the equivalent to like what's in the market for a similar sized cabin. At least that's what we're seeing right now. So I use Price Labs for automated pricing. So all of my bookings and stuff, that whole process is fairly automated. We have a website. We're on Airbnb and VRBO. So when the booking happens, there's a number of things that are integrated with OwnerRez, and the process is just kind of kick off through APIs. Messaging is all automated. So really, the way we work is we're exception based. So if a guest had, like, I have a virtual assistant that watches all of the communication. So if a guest has a question or something, we answer it, but we really do try to be like as automated as possible. So all the check-in messages are automated, checkout reminders. We send a message inquiring how's your stay going. All of that stuff is automated. And like I said, we work on exception based only. For the tents are different than a regular short-term rental though, like from the hosting perspective. Like in my short-term rentals, I really try to set it up so people don't have to have contact with me unless they really want to, right?
Yeah.
So my goal is, I don't, believe it or not, I don't want to hear from them during their stay. If I'm hearing from them during their stay, it's probably because something is wrong. And so I don't want to hear from them. If I'm not hearing anything, in my opinion, especially after I've sent a message out saying, hey, is everything okay? That means they're having a good stay. With the tents, it's more of it's a camping environment. And people who camp, there's a lot of camaraderie that goes on. A lot of people will go to like campgrounds and RV parks because they want their kids to play with the other kids and have like that sense of community. And so the tents is set up like that. There's a central fire pit, so everyone gets to gather around the fire pit. We provide firewood and everything for that, so everyone can have a good time. And then also from a hosting standpoint, in a normal short-term rental, I don't provide a ton of amenities. Like you get like the basic stuff. In the tents, like we go all out. Like they get snack baskets, they get water bottles. We have a coffee shop nearby. I talked about that earlier. So they get a $10 credit per visit to the shopping, when I say per visit, I mean per stay to the coffee shop. So that drives business to the coffee shop, but it also makes them really happy. I mean, the coffee shop is really a 3-minute walk away. So we're trying to, and those are things that you typically, I don't think would see in like your traditional short-term rental. I know there's people out there that do gift baskets, but up until now, I was not in the habit of doing that. We're pet friendly. So there's also a little basket for the dog that you bring. Yeah,
bonus.
that's been a huge hit. Yeah, they get like a little dog biscuit, and inside our tents we provide a dog cage and we provide a pet cot so the animal has some place to lay that's not on the ground.
Oh my God.
We also have stores. Yeah, like we've gone all out with these things. We have a store inside of them, so you scan the QR code and you can either buy, like we have hangover kits and cute little things like that, but we also have things you can rent. So like we've got coolers. It's right near the national park, so we've got like coolers that you can rent and bring in with you. There's a Yeti backpack cooler we rent out. There's bigger coolers you can put in the back of your car if you want. We provide charcoal at no charge, so you get enough to, usually it's like half a can of charcoal, and that's like way more than enough. Most people never even use a third of that.
I'm packing my bag.
So we've really tried to like go all out. I know. Well, if everything goes well, if we live up to our reputation, this is our tagline is done for you camping. So ideally, you just show up with your suitcase, and you're good. You know, you don't, and not only Instacart will come to these tents. I found this out the other day. You can get an Instacart grocery delivery to these tents, so you don't even have to order groceries. They'll bring them to you. Yep.
Yeah, take the fear out of camping for those that are hesitant to do it. That's amazing.
The other thing that I find scares people off is they're worried about bugs. So we do have a fairly aggressive extermination program. We put all the ingredients and the products we use out on our website. So if someone has a pet and they're worried about their animal ingesting anything, they're all supposed to be safe. I don't think you could drink a whole bottle, but like if your dog gets into a little bit of it, it's not going to make him sick. So we spray for mosquitoes, ticks, like you name it. Because I was like, that was my thing. When I first started doing this, I'm like, oh God, like I don't want the bugs. Gross. So yeah, they're pretty much, I can't guarantee you're not going to see an ant or a spider in these things, but we do have a routine extermination program as well.
Wow, you really have thought of everything. That's amazing. Now, have some
We tried.
Have some of the things that you've implemented come from direct guest feedback, or is this just something that you've thought of based on what you've seen or what you've wanted for yourself?
So one thing we added after we opened up was earplugs, because it is near a road. So these are not like out in the middle of nowhere. You are near the road to the back entrance of the park. So there is some traffic noise. And so that was the one thing I didn't think about. So far, I've not had anyone make an amenity suggestion to us, meaning everything's pretty much, we'll give you hair dryers, soap, shampoo, and conditioner. And we use high-end Nexus stuff for your hair and your conditioner, and then we use Dove body wash, and all of that stuff's already in the shower, so it's just like a little pump thing. You don't even have to bring that. We've really tried to think of everything. We give you robes too to use, so there's a hot tub on site, but it's shared, and so we gave people robes in case they don't want to like they can kind of shimmy down to the hot tub with their robe on and then hop out and head back to their tent. Again, like I have tried to think of everything, but I am open to other amenities. Like if someone came to me and said, "Hey, it would be really cool if you had this thing," we would most certainly do it.
Yeah. Awesome. So what have you learned along the way in setting up this glamping resort? What's like the thing that went really well, maybe something that didn't go so well that you've learned from?
I think so. Way back in the beginning, remember I said the guy who told us the tents was like, "Oh yeah, you know, you can put all these on here. It's not going to be an issue," and we trusted him. I trusted him too much, right? I didn't understand what his motivations were. Well, his motivation is to sell me tents, and I paid for them all. It was $300,000 for these tents, and I paid for them all, and found out after the fact I could only use 3 of them. So you have to really do your homework, right? Like at the end of the day, honestly, I mean, I'm not trying to assign blame. This was my fault. I should have gone out and double checked what he was telling me. So the first thing is to make sure that your site will support it. Most of the time, if you're going to have a bathroom, you need to worry about some kind of septic or city water or city sewer situation, something. So you really got to make sure you understand like what the costs are going to be and what if the site you're even looking at is suitable for septic. Septic rules are different all around the country. So like the advice I could give you for Sevierville, I could not give you for another locale because I have no idea what the rules are. Sevierville only allows like one type of system to be installed. So that really, it increases the amount of area you need to set aside for your septic. It's almost like a factor of 2. It's crazy how much you have to set aside. So that would be the first thing, is just making sure that during your purchase period, so if I had to do over again and I was just buying land and I didn't know what I was getting on the land and I was just buying it, I would have like a 45-day due diligence, which means if I did that, my due diligence would be up just about the same time that I was getting ready to close. So essentially you're giving yourself right up to the day of closing to bail, because if you find for some reason it's not going to be suitable. And sometimes it takes you that long to figure it out, especially when you're talking about septic systems. Usually you have to have a soil scientist come in and give you an assessment of what the drainage rates of the soil there are going to be. Mm-hmm. And once you have that, and then you have to take that to the county, and they can kind of tell you how many bedrooms they think that piece of land will support. Here in Sevier County, it's not based on bathrooms, it's all based on bedrooms. So even if it's kind of silly in my opinion the way that they look at it, but the rules are the rules. So that would be my biggest piece of advice. From a budgeting standpoint, like the other thing that we didn't do correctly, we didn't put enough electricity in these things. So we have electrical in them, but it turns out like you're going to want to put space heaters in the bedrooms if you're in a cooler climate, or an air conditioner or whatever. We have one main mini split in the big area of the tent. I don't know what we were thinking, honestly. I have no idea what we were thinking, why we didn't put more in, because it wouldn't have been that much more cost-wise, because they're already running the conduit and stuff. I want to see things that went really well. So we did our own project management. A lot of people wouldn't be comfortable with that. My husband's a general contractor. My daughter is part of the business, and so this was essentially her chance to learn how to do all this stuff, because I was looking at the big picture. Like we're going to have multiple, like we'll have at least two resorts here in Tennessee, and we're probably going to go outside of Tennessee after this. And so everything I do, I look at like long game. So now my daughter like knows how to do this, right? She knows how to manage a resort. She knows how to project manage. And so phase 2, like it's all her. And I don't think I'm going to have to do much of anything.
That's awesome.
So I think that's pretty cool. We really looked at it and we documented all our processes. We're actually putting together an online course for people to learn how to do glamping, where we'll have like project plans and things that we'll give out as part of the course that kind of help you make sure you've considered like all these different little steps that we had to go through. But I think for us, the biggest challenge again has been anything to do with the county. It's been really challenging. Oh my goodness. Like it's just been, Took us way longer than what we thought it was gonna, but we were sort of on a voyage of discovery. We would do things and then figure out, like, my husband has been a contractor for over 40 years. Like, the man knows what he's doing. And they came and told us, oh, your footers are not correct. You need to have different footers. We're like, really? This is a deck that's 23 inches off the ground and it's got almost no weight load on it. Like,
Yeah.
we redid our decks twice.
Wow. Yeah.
But now we know. Now we're just like, okay. Like, so I really believe, like, this next time, once I get through environmental health, which is for the septic, I think it's just gonna scream, because we know exactly what we got to do.
Oh yeah.
But
I'm sure
that
this
I would say would be the biggest lesson learned.
yeah. Was this a new concept for the county to wrap their heads around?
Yes and no. So there is, like I said, there's another glamping village in the county. I don't know why they had so much trouble with our tents, honestly, because we went and looked at their stuff before we ever built ours. Our stuff's actually way nicer than theirs, and in my opinion, not only from like a quality standpoint, but just like the construction overall and the design of the tents and everything about them is just a lot higher quality. These other ones, they kind of look like great big bed sheets sometimes, like draped over frames. Like they just don't look sturdy and stuff. Their bathroom setups are horrible. Like, we were out looking at the plumbing of their bathroom, like it's open to the outside. Like, you can see the sewer pipe running outside the tent. It's just like,
Wow.
that should be underneath.
Right.
So the county had some experience with them, but they still don't know, like, they're treating it like it's a 2-bedroom cabin, and it's not. It doesn't have a dishwasher. It doesn't have a washer and dryer. So the amount of water consumption is much less than what you're going to have in a 2-bedroom cabin. It's probably about a third, because essentially you've got your shower, your toilet, and your sink, and that's it.
Yeah.
So because they're kind of new to the county, though, also building codes, like, they don't know what to think about these things, because they're not energy efficient. It's a canvas, right? But at the same time, like, so there's that, but then they just don't know what to do. And the county is all about risk avoidance. And so the way that they transfer risk is they say, okay, you need to go get an engineer to sign off on this, that, and the other, which is what we did. But it's all, for the county, it's all about making sure that nobody can come back and sue them. So, like, I understand, like, why they're doing it, but boy, it can be really frustrating when you're the person that's kind of caught in the middle of all this.
Yeah, I bet. I have a question about this new upcoming project. Are you able to share anything with us on the closing that you have this coming Friday and what you're planning to do with what you've got there?
Yeah. So this is essentially, it's across the street from, we call it phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 is what we've already got done. That's already open. Phase 2 is across the street. The same gentleman that sold us the coffee shop is selling us the phase 2 land. It's a bigger spot. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be like 2.67 acres. It's got, I would say, between a third and a half of the lot is all soil suitable for septic. So that's like huge for us. We're going to put up all of our remaining tents. So I essentially have one of the 2 bedrooms left, and then we have a whole bunch of tents that are 1 bedroom. So there's just beds in them, and then there'll be a bathhouse that'll go up. So we'll have 15 of those plus the bathhouse, 3 2-bedroom units. So I'm going to buy 2 more of the 2-bedroom setups. We want to put a shipping container pool out there. I don't know if your audience is familiar with those, but it's basically just what it says. It's a shipping container pool. And then we're going to build a storage building with an apartment over the top. Long-term housing here in Sevier County is extremely hard to find. And I was like, it's not going to cost us that much more to put an apartment on top of the storage place. So we're going to put an apartment in and rent it out.
Wow.
So that's what we got planned.
Yeah.
We're trying to be done. I'd like to be open in April, honestly. Like, the construction itself will be pretty easy for us because we know what we're doing. But I've got to get through the county. And so The building permit should go pretty easy because they've seen them now. They know exactly what they are. So we should be able to get through all that stuff. I think mainly it's going to be just the overall site design and getting through environmental health, making sure that we have enough field line there, because essentially they're going to tell me I need 7 bedrooms worth of septic plus the bathhouse, and they'll probably nail me for each one of these little 1-bedroom deals too. Even though there's no water coming out of them, I just have a feeling they're going to want me to put some kind of allocation in, even though that's crazy. They're not using any water. All the water's coming out of the bathhouse. But
Right.
we'll see. And I have flexibility. So if they come back and they tell me, nope, you can't have all these tents or whatever, they're in storage. I will buy some more land. I'll find another place to put whatever few I would have left up, or I can always sell them. Like I can probably sell them right now for more than what I paid for them. So
Yeah.
I've got ideas in the back of my head if they tell me no, to the numbers that I want to put on there.
Well, I can't wait to hear about your the final project here. Looking forward to reconnecting on that and hearing all about it. What do you think? Do you have any ideas that you can share today about even beyond this project, what you're thinking?
I think I want to go either down to Mexico. So the reason why Mexico is appealing to me is land is fairly cheap. We'd be looking somewhere on the Yucatan Peninsula, somewhere around there. But land is cheap down there. And I have a buddy who's an attorney in Mexico, believe it or not. And he is affiliated with the company that sold me the tents. That's how I met him. And he's like, come on down. He's like, I know all the land development rules. He's also a licensed realtor in Mexico. So like, he's like the perfect guy. So yeah, we're thinking about going to Mexico next. If I don't go to Mexico, then I would probably go maybe like New Mexico inside of the United States, or try to get near another national park. We also looked at the Bourbon Trail up in Kentucky. So we're kind of open right now. I don't know why, but I really want one of these in Mexico. I think it would go over really good.
Say that again.
I said, I don't know why, but I really want one of these in Mexico. I think it would go really well. I'm thinking the development is going to be a lot easier. There's just a lot less rules down there, which can be good and bad, I guess.
Yeah.
But I definitely would be interested in less red tape.
Oh,
I feel like I've chopped through rolls and rolls and rolls of it right now.
Yeah.
With the current project.
Well, that's exciting. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information. I'm sure that others are thinking about launching similar projects. So, I think this will be super valuable to a lot of listeners who are interested in launching glamping sites. Any closing advice that you would give in this transition, for people that are sort of contemplating leaving their W-2 job and launching into something totally entrepreneurial, and any advice for folks there?
I think that the key for me was always thinking about the life that I was trying to create, and not living in fear. Because so many things could have gone wrong, but they didn't, right? Which is why it doesn't make any sense to live in fear. I think you just have to think from a perspective of, what are you creating? Like, what do you really want for yourself and your family? And really get very clear on what that is. And then just every day, like, make sure that all the actions that you're taking in your day, you can somehow trace them back to that. They might not be directly related, but it could be like a chain of things that eventually ties back to like your ultimate goal. And as long as you do that, you're going to get there. You don't know exactly when, but you'll definitely get there. You just have to stay persistent and keep working at it.
And when things don't go your way, how do you navigate through those challenging times?
I meditate, honestly. And I also really believe, it sounds so simple, but that's what I do. I really believe that life is always working to my highest and greatest good. The universe is rooting for me all the time. So I don't really spend a lot of time like in reaction to things. Yeah, it happens, and I make sure I give myself a day or two. If it's something really big, it might take a couple of days to process it, but I always like try to come back to, okay, like, what's the lesson? This happened to you. There has to be something good that came out of this. What is it? What did you learn? How are you going to change your processes? Like, how can you benefit from this happening? You know, like real estate's really slow right now. Well, what am I doing about it? Like, I could really freak out about that because that's how I get most of my money to fund all my investing. And I'm not freaked out about it. I'm like, okay, I need to get better at lead generation. I have to get better at communicating with my clients and my audiences, right? That's a skill I've got to develop. I didn't really have to develop it until now because in the Smokeys, you could just put something on the market and it would sell in 3 days, and it's not like that anymore. So this is forcing me to develop a set of skills that are actually going to serve me across all my businesses, right? Like lead generation and social media and podcasting and advertising and all of that. And those were skills that I never really had before, even as part of my W-2, like the company did all of that at a much higher level. I didn't have to worry about any of it. So, you know, I think there's some real benefit in that. And that's just an example of just in general, like how I react to negative situations and stressors in my life. Like I really do try to figure out like, what's the message? What's the good that's going to come out of this? How can I adapt? How can I use this to become a better person, better entrepreneur, make more money?
I love the positivity and like the positive frame that you're coming in from. So thank you for that. Is there anything that you need from our audience?
Come to the Smokeys and buy a cabin.
Yeah, where should they buy? Or actually, where should they come?
Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Sevierville. You can hit me up on, I've got a real estate site. It's blacksheeprealty.co. So that's for the real estate. And then the glamping stuff is stargazerstaysglamping.com. Where I'm out on Facebook. You can find the glamping site on Facebook. Real estate business is mostly online. We have a Facebook page, but it's not super active. If you want something real estate related, just hit me up on blacksheeprealty.co. I'm on Instagram. I don't do a ton with it, but I'm out there. Like you'll find me. I think one of my virtual assistants does my posts for me. I hope she's doing them because I'm not doing them. But I got to work on that. Social media.
Can you give us the
not my thing
for the Instagram?
I think it's VT Biker Chick because I have a motorcycle.
We didn't get into that.
I think it's VT Biker Chick.
Is that how you get around?
I have a big Harley that I ride. No, I wish. No, the roads here are pretty hilly and crazy, and there's some insane driveways. So I generally find me in my car. I had this fantasy that I was going to ride the bike everywhere when I got my license in Tennessee. It's absolutely no way. Like some of the roads here are insane with steepness. There's no way I'd want to take a motorcycle up them or down them.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Oh. So yeah, I'm in a car all the time now.
All right. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm really grateful and appreciative of your time and spending the time here with us to talk through your journey and tell us your story. So again, thank you. And wish you all the best of luck in your upcoming projects, and looking forward to chatting again and reconnecting.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.